Frontier invited me for an exclusive look at Planet Coaster 2's Update 1, and there is so much to unpack here. There are so many great fixes and features being added in this update, and I'm so excited for it to make this game even better than it already is. Now, Frontier did provide me with a full list of everything that's changing, so I'm going to go through it and put some footage that they've kindly provided in the background as well to show you these changes in action. I'd just once again like to say thank you so much to Frontier for inviting me to this event. It's been so fun being a part of the launch of this game, and I'm so excited to see how it's going to evolve in the future. But anyway, let's get into it. The first feature is edge scrolling on PC, so when you move your cursor closer to the edge of the screen, the camera will actually move, which I think is really cool. The UI is also having a much needed overhaul. One of these new features will be that the Browse tab stays open on screen whilst you're in the Tools menu. This is fantastic news. Since the game released, I've had quite a few issues with this, and I'm so glad that it's now fixed. Also, whilst using the colour picker, exiting a colour picker will now just automatically confirm that colour. You no longer need to press confirm, but you still can if you want to. And the input field will no longer require you pressing the hash key when you are entering hex colours. And the mouse will now also move when your cursor is outside of the gradient area as well, which is something that I'm so glad has been fixed. Also, your scenery should now remember the last colour you had picked as well, which is great. Again, another thing that I found quite difficult during my early builds, but now is fixed. And also, the browser should no longer close when you come out of it to place things, which is fantastic. Browser tooltips will now also show when you're in placement mode, and the UI has had an overall improved responsiveness. That's a lot of work done just to the UI alone, which is great. It's fantastic to see that Frontier definitely hear us, and it's great that we now know this will be the case moving forward as well. Frontier are being very honest here and being open to feedback, which is genuinely fantastic to see. On control adjustments, the return to browser option will now work when you're inside the track editor, which is nice. For PC players, angle snap and other sliders will now have an off option toggle, which I'm so glad this has been implemented. It'll make building so much easier. And finally, I'm so glad that something I picked up on very vocally has been changed. It's great to see Frontier are open to changing things. The custom coaster and ride menu in general has now been fully embedded into the bottom bar of the UI, rather than having its own bespoke UI and covering the full screen. Thank you so much, Frontier, for changing this. You have no idea how much of a difference it will make to my creative process, and I'm sure loads of other creators too. It's great to see that you're listening. On to the most exciting part for me, it's the coasters, and they have now added the ability to have separate loading and unloading stations. This is great. Now, I know I will definitely be using these loads because it just adds to that level of realism. Think of loads of really big budget coasters at like Phantasialand or Disney or Universal. Most of them have onload and offload, so this will drastically improve the throughput of our coasters in our parks. They also talked about the different staff and guest entry and exit gates for your station platforms as well to make these features actually work in game, which sounds really fascinating. And there's also going to be a better communication on the exit and entry sides of stations, which is cool. Tracked and transport rides are now fully customizable with scenery too. And there is also a new heat map for guest tolerance, which will show their tolerance to fear, nausea, ride height, amongst other factors, which is really cool. Now for staff and maintenance, and janitors will now empty the bins in their staff zones. I'm sure this was just a silly little bug that they've encountered, and I'm so glad it's been fixed. They've also rebalanced the ride condition decay for coasters and rides will now call for servicing jobs a bit earlier to allow more time for the mechanics to attend the rides, which is great. As for the scenery, I am so happy about this. Custom supports are now in the game. I'm really excited to use these. I will be using them pretty much instantly on all of my coasters. Park series that I'm developing now, I'm just refusing to support the coasters. Waiting for this, and now that they're in the game, I'm so happy. And they've also now added a great selection of glass pieces. Again, I've been holding off adding these to my buildings in my parks because they just weren't in the game, and now they are. I'll definitely be adding those, so thank you Frontier for adding them. Next up, a new water visual feature where water droplets will now be visible on the game camera when the camera goes into pools. Now, I will say that I think the water itself in Planet Coaster 2 does look stunning. I think it's been really well implemented and I love the look of it, but this effect, really not keen on it, I have to be honest. I think it's probably more of a stylistic choice, it's just not for me. In sandbox mode, it's now possible to increase the maximum guest cap when playing in solo play in sandbox mode on PC only. I'm really glad that they've now added the ability to increase the number of guests. I assume Frontier were just waiting to see how the game would perform with the 6,000 base guests already in, but now you can change this 6,000 all the way up to 12,000, so hopefully those mega parks will be a lot more populated. And we now fully have the ability to change weather exactly how we want in Sandbox. No more long 2-hour stretches of rain while we're trying to build and time lapse. We can now change it to whatever we want, which is great. And I'm sure this one will make a lot of players happy. The Planet Coaster 2 logo has been removed from paths in the game. Thank you. And just to finish off with a bit of a miscellaneous section, we've had quite a few general coaster bug fixes, correction of jittering for special track pieces, and general stability and performance across the game. And also fireworks, which will be coming completely for free. This in general, just for one update, is a lot. I'm so glad that they've put in the work to make this happen. If you're new here and have enjoyed this video, please subscribe. I'll have more updates and news coming for any future content in the game and have 2 park series that are on the way very soon. Thank you so much for watching everyone, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.